guys, hi. Thanks for joining in. So, guys, before we sort of begin today's webinar, I just wanted you guys to firstly thank you all, guys, for the continued support. I think it's been over 7 to 8 months that we've been doing these Wellness Wednesdays, and it has come to a point where we've reached a huge attendee base, all because of your love and support. So thank you so much to everyone who has been constantly attending our sessions, encouraging us to do better sessions for you guys. And we have also taken a lot of your feedbacks and, improved the kind of webinars that we do, the kind of topics we bring in. And to sort of improve even better, we would want you guys to please feel free to, sort of reach out to us, message us on LinkedIn, drop your sort of feedback anytime to us or to me, and we would love to sort of curate different kinds of events and webinars for you guys. And the last session was extremely good. I think a lot of y'all really enjoyed, and we actually got a lot of public mentions from you guys. So thank you so much for that encouragement. And I would really recommend you guys to sort of be active on this platform, because we are bringing new topics every Wednesday, trying to cover every aspect of wellness in whichever way possible, right? And bring you the best strategies that you can have at your workplace when you're sort of building your career or improving your lifestyle or looking out for your well-being, right? So that was about it. And yeah, I think we have enough attendees. We can begin for today. Great. All right. Thank you so much, Shivani, for joining us today. A very good evening to everyone who's joined us for today's Onsurity Wellness Wednesdays. This is Abhishek, your host, and we are back with another power-packed session on wellness, of course. And today's topic is very important and is very special to me and to a lot of people who have reached out to us and told us about having this topic as a part of our webinars. So we have our wellness guru for today, and she is Shivani Chauhan. So let me quickly give you a brief about Shivani, but before that I would like you all to know that Shivani and Mana Wellness has been a huge part of Onsurity's Wellness Wednesdays and the success of it. And we have had Shivani conduct a very brilliant session on skills of well-being. And this was, I think, 2 months back. So I would highly recommend you guys to go check out our playlist on YouTube and check out this session by Shivani, where you will get to learn a lot of things about skills of well-being. And today's, topic is somewhat interrelated or connected to one particular skill. And we're going to talk about locus of control today, right? And it's a very interesting topic. It's about understanding how you can identify first, what is locus of control, B, knowing that, how can you sort of maximize your potential in every possible way, right? Because when you do things that are at your reach, or where you've identified things that are in your control, you are sort of in a better position to sort of build a better lifestyle or a well-being for yourself and do anything that is in your control, right? Instead of worrying about what is not in your control. It's so very important for us to understand what is in our locus of control, right? And when you do that, there is a lot of progress and growth that you see in your career, right? And in your lifestyle. So with respect to locus of control, and a little specific about how you can sort of use the benefits of building a good internal locus of control, is what Shivani is going to be talking to us about. And let me quickly tell you about Shivani. So Shivani holds a master's in counseling and political psychology from Lancaster University. She is a certified REBT practitioner, and what makes Shivani the best in her role is that she is experienced and committed to providing very well structured emotional first aid support, right? And she's an excellent psychologist. I personally follow her a lot on LinkedIn, and everyone in our community, in our organization, have a huge respect for Mana Wellness and the kind of team that they have built here, which is absolutely amazing. So I really look forward to this session today, and I hope all of us have a lot of things to learn because Shivani is going to take us through an entire beautiful journey of how you can understand locus of control and sort of actually implement it in your lives, right? So over to you, Shivani. Thank you so much once again for taking out time and joining us today for this webinar. And we really hope to learn a lot of things from you, and hope that all of us enjoy and learn something good today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. I think you've set the expectation very high. So an internal joke is, I don't know which way my locus of control is placed today. All right. But I hope I will do justice to your expectation. And thank you everyone for making time to come here. Before any further delay, I would like to just get started. And usually I like to start by telling a story. So please bear with me, because I'm also a storyteller, or so I've become in the past 2-3 months. All right. Okay. So I want to ask you all. So Vishal and Joseph are both up for a promotion. Vishal believes that in order to achieve that promotion, he will need to add a few more hours and plan his work and growth. Joseph wants to try his best to get the promotion, but he knows that he will get it only if it suits his boss's mood. Who do you think is easier on themselves, Vishal or Joseph? I would like you guys to respond to the chat box. That would be great.
Please put down your answers in the chat box to anything that, Shivani is sort of asking you guys.
I can see that Harmeet has said Joseph. Any other responses? Joseph?
Same here,
right. Joseph? Right. I have to warn you guys, this one is going to be a highly interactive session. So please feel free to put your responses on the chat box. There's a poll and everything coming as well. Sure. All right. I think most of you are saying Joseph. I see some of you are saying Vishal. We'll get to why I spoke about this in just a minute. Okay. Okay, so there seems to be like a balance between Vishal and Joseph now. All right. Okay, good. Thank you for responding. I'm going to get to why I brought this up in just a moment, after I take you guys through a quick poll. I would like you guys to answer these poll questions. If you could cue the poll in, it would be great. In the poll, you will see certain statements that are labeled as A and B. Okay, both statements differ. I would like you to choose which statement resonates with you. So you will either pick A or pick B. Can we release the poll, please?
Yeah.
All right, great. Not yet, not yet. You will have to vote on the poll. Just a moment. Here you go. There should be a poll question in front of you. There are about 7 items. So look at the statements A and look at the statements B and see which one resonates with you. It's only a single choice. Okay. I'll quickly walk you guys through it. So question number 1 is, many of the unhappy things in people's lives are partly due to bad luck. That's statement A. B is believing that people's misfortunes result from the mistakes they make, right? So you have to pick which one you resonate with. I'm going to give you guys about 2 minutes to do this, and I hope you all participate because the responses are going to be very insightful. Are we getting responses?
Not yet.
Okay. Which are to be selected? So either whichever one you resonate with, Jay. So either A or B. You can only select one of these options.
Guys, please do participate in the poll. It's there in your screen. You'll be able to select the option for it. Yeah, we are getting answers now. Yeah.
Okay, so the poll is visible to all of you, right?
Yes.
So let's give it a minute or 2.
Yeah. Guys, if you still have doubts, please feel free to ask.
Please feel free to ask.
Although we've got like 10 responses so
We
far.
want more.
Yes.
We'd like at least 50 responses, and we'll cap it only at 50.
Let's give it time. I think everyone is filling it right now.
Yeah.
My head is although still stuck at Vishal and Joseph right now. I'm still trying to contemplate about that story, but it seems to be something really interesting.
Sure. There's another very interesting story coming up as well. I will walk you guys through it.
Awesome. Okay, we have about 30 responses.
Okay, we can do 20 more. I think people are submitting. Let's submit.
Yes. All right, we've crossed 40 and we've crossed 50.
Amazing. Thank you for the lovely motivation, everyone. I think that's brilliant. Thank you so much for responding again. If any of you are still voting, I think the poll is now over, but I would like to give you guys the insights. If you could share the results, I'll be able to walk you guys through it.
Yes. So the first one is we've got a maximum vote for B.
Okay,
which is people's misfortune result from the mistakes they make.
Okay. And overall, in most of the questions, it's a B.
Yeah. So for the first two questions, it's B. For the third question, it's A.
Okay.
For the fourth question, it's again B. Most of it is B.
Most of it is B.
Yeah.
Okay.
And two questions, we've got maximum as A as the answer.
Okay, right. So we have about 84 people, out of which I think 50 people participated here. And most of the responses you're telling me is a B. Now, what does that mean, right? The statements that I presented to you guys, these A's and B's actually direct towards which way your locus of control is. Okay, so all the A statements are internal locus of control statements and B statements are external locus of control statements. I'll just get to what this actually means. Okay, so these were just a review of the questions you were asked. There were total 7 items. So all the A's, hello A's, you have an internal locus of control. If maximum of your responses were A's, that means that you are somebody who believes that hard work, commitment, and committing yourself to a complete goal, having that motivation to know that you can achieve anything is how you believe things happen in your day-to-day lives, work as well as personal life. You don't really believe, you're a highly non-believer of fate or destiny. You believe that things are going to happen because you're going to make it happen. Right? So for example, if you study hard, if you're well prepared, you plan your things right, if you're attending all those skill building workshops at work, you're going to achieve something in life. You're going to achieve that promotion in life, right? And you believe that luck has very little to do with success. Most of it is dependent on you, at least 98% of it. And it's a matter of dedication and effort that you're going to put in. So you're somebody who, with an internal locus of control, is an individual who highly believes in their efforts, their motivation, and their drive to get things done. The layman term or the slogan for an internal locus of control is I can. Okay. Now, hello, all the B's, which I think most of you did respond. You guys are mostly leaning towards an external locus of control. An external locus of control is when you believe that things can be left to fate, can be left to chance, or can be left to destiny. Some things are just going to happen because they're supposed to happen, right? That's where you highly believe in. That's what you highly believe in, right? You may also believe that life is a game of chance. No matter how much hard work you may put in, no matter how much you may try, some things can be left to the mood of the boss to get that promotion, right? So going back to that Vishal and Joseph's story that I started with, Vishal was someone who leans towards an internal locus of control, right? He was someone who said, hey, I put in those hard work. I put in those hours, and then I'll get that promotion, right? Bear in mind that they're both up for the promotion. They're both up for that job, right? The opportunity. There is no difference there. But how Vishal thinks about it is very different than how Joseph thinks about it, where he says that, hey, I will put in the work. I want to get the promotion, which is the motivation he has. But he says, at the end of the day, it's going to depend on my boss's mood. So he's left it out to the external. He's kept the control externally, right? I hope I'm making a little bit of sense here as to why we're talking about these aspects, right? And I hope these concepts are slightly clear to you as well. Okay, so internal locus of
please
control.
put a thumbs up on chat if all of this was clear so far, and if you have any sort of queries or questions, you can put it in the chat right now also. But I hope so far it's clear. All right, cool. Yes,
I'm getting thumbs up and hearts, and thank you for the motivation. Sometimes it's very lonely up here. All right, so internal locus of control, I can. External locus of control, I can't, right? But I want you all to be aware that this is not something we're trying to do here is come to a balance. We're not trying to say that one is bad than the other, right? Sometimes an internal locus of control is required because of your circumstances and situations that you're put in. And sometimes the external locus of control is required because of the circumstances and challenges that you've been put in, right? So here we're trying to achieve a balance. We're trying to figure out how we're going to get that balance. Just because you voted for a bunch of B's instead of A's doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It just identifies which way your locus of control is and how far you are from that balance. Similarly, if you've voted too many A's and not B's, coming to a balance, right? One is not better than the other. That's not the message we're trying to sort of portray over here. Okay, all right. Moving on, I must say that we have been talking about Vishal and Joseph for a very long time, but we need to start gathering sort of a perspective on how this affects me. How does this affect all of you on a very intricate, technically emotional level, right? So I'm going to tell you guys another story, and I want you all to participate with me, and I'll take you guys through this journey. Okay. So imagine that you are rowing a boat on a very nice, cool day, on a very nice, calm river. Okay, you're rowing your boat alone, by yourself, right? You look behind you, and then you see another boat approaching. Okay, it's approaching closer to you. So what you do is, it's getting closer, it's going to crash into you. So what you do is you row faster, 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 and you try to get away, as far away as possible from that boat behind you, right? And now you look behind you, you're like, okay, it's gone. Okay, I'm far ahead from this other boat. Now I'm calm. Now I'm rowing my boat again. And suddenly, out of nowhere, that boat comes crashing onto you. It tumbles you over. You fall into the river, cold, cold water. You go deep into the river, and then you come back up into the surface. And while you're doing this, you're thinking, who the hell is on that boat, not able to see me? How dare this person crash? You feel angry. Okay? You're like, what the hell? I was trying to get away from this other boat. I planned my rowing, right? I was having a very chill, good time. But this person decides to crash into me. You reach the surface, and you see that the boat has no person rowing it. There's nobody there. It's just an empty boat. I want to ask you all, where did that anger come from? Within. Anybody else? I see Jay is here.
expectations. Priyanka says within. Mithun says expectation. Yeah, I think it's within. It's mostly within, I feel. Simarjeet also says within. A feeling of betrayal, says someone.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. That's an interesting answer. Put the blame on someone else.
Now we're talking.
Thinking a lot externally, okay?
Right. Okay, so these are very good points. The question, Harmeet, was that where is this anger coming from? You came back to the surface, to the water, and then you're like, how dare this person, hit me and crash into me? But then when you came back to the surface, you realized that the boat was empty, nobody was there, but you were still angry, right? So the question here is, where is the anger coming from, right? A lot of you have, answered this same question in different ways, but I think we're all aligned that the answer is that the anger came from within. Most of you said that. Whatever emotion you felt, maybe you felt disappointed, anxious, stressed, whatever you felt, it came from within you, right? Because the boat is a wooden boat. It doesn't have any feelings or emotions to kind of, trigger that anxiety or that anger in you, right? Most of you would say that the anger has come from within. Now, if I had to change this question up a little bit and ask you, what if somebody was riding that boat, rowing that boat? Then where would your anger come from? Right? What if somebody was on that boat that crashed into you? Then where would your anger come from?
Assumption says someone
Same
still
answer, still within. That's right.
external. Okay.
So if you notice here, if you noticed here, the boat having a person or not having a person made no difference to how you're feeling, because your emotion came from within, right? This is the theory of self-efficacy. What the story is trying to tell you, and I'll come to how this relates to locus of control as well. It's all interrelated, right? The higher self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is that drive, that understanding that you have within you, that anything and everything around you is within your control, including your own emotions and how you respond or react to situations. It's all in your control. So in this aspect, if a person has a higher self-efficacy, they're more likely to realize that their anger has come from within. And they will not be able to, they won't react to that situation. Instead, they'll respond to that situation. Instead of blaming the boat, which has no feelings whatsoever, here, what they're doing is understanding that this boat has no feelings whatsoever, right? So there's no way to blame, regardless of if that boat had a person crashing into you or not, right? The reason why I have brought higher self-efficacy to this entire discussion is because the higher the internal locus of control, the higher you have internal locus of control, that means you believe that you are responsible for a lot of things that happen in your life, the higher the self-efficacy that you have. That means the higher the motivation you have in life, at work, as well as personal life. Higher self-regulation you have. Self-regulation means what? It means that you're able to control the impulses and cravings around you. Higher self-awareness, you're more empathetic as a person. You are highly socially aware as well, and you have a higher resilience. This is the benefit of having an internal locus of control. When it comes to a workplace situation, you must be wondering, how do I, as an employee or as a team member, apply this to work, right? So when it comes to work, most of the stresses that we face at work come from situations around us, right? And it's how we perceive those situations around us, right? Whether we feel stressed out about certain, tasks that are given to us, certain projects that are given to us, or how we feel in terms of, the deadline approaching, that anxious moment, how we feel about that, how we feel about feeling low, right? So you, as a person who has a higher internal locus of control, it means that you're able to handle that stress, anxiety, and those low feelings much better than those who have an external locus of control. It makes you more goal-oriented. To give you a quick example over here, there was a research done on cancer patients, okay? Patients who were diagnosed with cancer. So the patients who were diagnosed with cancer and who had internal locus of control were more likely to go for treatments on time, to go for doctor visits on time, to take their medications on time. Why? Because they were like, this is something I can do. It's in my control. I can be responsible for these things, right? The patients who had external locus of control and blamed the situation, their destiny, their fate, the fact that, oh, why do these things keep happening only to me? That the external bit, they used to miss appointments, not take treatments on time, and not be responsible with doctor visits. And guess what? The patients who had the similar diagnosis, internal locus of control patients, had a higher rate of progress as compared to the external locus of control. So you see, it plays a role throughout, mentally, physically, everywhere, emotionally, right? And at workplace, the crux of this entire thing is, if you have an internal locus of control, you take responsibility for your work. And because you take responsibility for your work, you drive your work, you're committed to your work, you're more present. Even small things like coming to meetings on time, right? Or being late might make you feel slightly guilty. Oh no, I'm so sorry, I'm so late, I feel terrible about it, right? That mini bit that you do, that's your internal locus of control. If you're somebody who says, yeah, I'm late to the meeting because of the traffic, and because the things were just not going well for me, right? That's you going towards external locus of control. I'm only going to take this into two specific aspects, right? Do you have something to add?
Before you sort of jump into this, I had one question. It's a little out of track, but I think this sort of was in my head while you were explaining that case study. So does self-esteem levels of a person have anything to do with building a good locus of control internally? Like, do you suggest, or would you say that a person in any way is being able to develop a good locus of control internally because of their self-esteem levels? Do you think that sort of aligns in any way?
Right. So that's a very interesting question. Every time I come to this question, right, there is a very vice versa this thing to it, because that happens a lot with mental health. One is that you can't see the cause and effect of things, which one causes which one, right? So self-esteem is dependent on your internal locus of control, and internal locus of control is dependent also on your self-esteem. Having said that, to elaborate on this factor, the locus of control is something that you derive from your past experiences, the way you've been raised as a child, and the way you've been sort of thinking about situations in your life as you grow up, right? It's a personality trait factor. Slightly difficult to alternate it, slightly more than self-esteem. Is this the only difference that we have, right? Self-esteem is something that is also from your past experiences, the way you derive and your experiences overall, right? But this one, self-esteem, is something that's more on a slightly surface level. It goes towards behavior as well. How do I portray myself? This internal locus of control is very thought related, right? I hope that's giving you a little bit of clarity.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I see that because of your question, Priyanka has just asked me, can we change our locus of control? Yes, you can practice to, because I believe that the mind is plastic, actually. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but there is something called as neuroplasticity, right? You can grow and develop and make new neural pathways in your mind. That's been proven. So why not learn a way to figure out how to look at things from an internal locus of control perspective, or a balanced perspective, as per usual, right? So we'll come to that. I'll give you guys a structure, because I always come with a structure, and I don't leave you guys without a structure, right? All right, so I was talking about how, this kind of internal locus of control, of course, specifically when it comes to job satisfaction, because a lot of people ask me that, how does this affect the way I feel about work, or the way I work at work, right? What drives me at work? So most of the time, what happens is employees who have internal locus of control, just like the cancer patient story that I gave you guys, right? They already struggle to change the factors, right? Employees, change the factors that cause their job satisfaction to decrease. So when they cannot change these factors and the situations, I'm sorry, there's a typo here. It's employees with external locus of control struggle to change the factors that cause their job satisfaction. So firstly, they know that these factors exist. Okay. They know that these factors exist. And this is why I'm not getting job satisfaction. But they kind of struggle to change that, to alternate these factors even, because internally they don't think that they are responsible for it, right? So it's it's like a cycle over here. Either you're, in some part of the cycle, or it could also be a continuum where you're here or there every single time, right? So if a person cannot even act on the factors that they're already aware of, it becomes a huge challenge when it comes to how locus of control affects our job satisfaction. So we need to start changing this lens of how we see things. The second most important aspect is how locus of control affects our social relationships, romantic, interpersonal, work relationships, all kinds of relationships, right? Here, there is an interesting switch though. Here is where I'm going to talk a little bit about balance. In relationships, it seems that you require both internal as well as external locus of control. Any guesses why? Any thoughts as to why you need to also be in control and also let go of control in relationships? Love is blind. How sweet. For happy living. Any other guesses?
Are Sneak and Jess sitting together by any chance? They seem to be really coordinating with their answers and coming up with, okay, awesome. We have a lot of answers. We can't control others' emotions. Jobin says wife is always right.
Yeah.
Cannot suffocate the other person with control, okay? Mutual understanding, all right? Communication, emotions can't be one way. I think emotions are quite personal, and I think it has nothing to do with reciprocation, I feel, right? I mean, it's what I feel or what someone else in that romantic relationship feels, which is their independent emotion. Not really sure if it works both ways.
Right.
Simajit says being understanding, okay.
Right. So the interesting factor when it comes to locus of control here is, all this while we've been talking about benefits of the internal locus of control, all this while, right? But when it comes to relationships, it's both. One is that if you're somebody who is highly internal locus of control, somebody who is, very much committed, but at the same time, you think that you're accountable for most of the things and you need to make that change. Like someone said, I think Deepak said, you're more likely to control your partner, or at work, micromanage your team, right? These are different traits that we see in those who hold very high internal locus of control about everything, right? Me, I'm personally guilty about it as well, right? Very high internal locus of control. So I tend to get very anxious when things get, a little tensed, or somebody asks me to let go of something, right? It's very tough for me, right? Whereas in the external locus of control, here also the con is that people who have external locus of control, they already assume a victim position. They already, raise their white flags. They're like, truce, okay, tumhe jo karna hai karo, or I will listen to you, right? A very sort of defensive way of looking at things, right? And they find themselves as being a little, you can say in layman terms, clingy, needy, or dependent on their partners. And that's also a bad thing. So there are cons on both sides, which is why I want to keep spreading this message that when it comes to locus of control, we have to have a balance. It's not an either or situation like the A's and B's I gave you guys. Sometimes there were A's, sometimes there were B's. Sometimes we are Vishals and sometimes we are Josephs, right? So what does it really look like? It looks like a cluster in the middle, right? Some of your situations are in the middle. Some of them are larger. Some of them are smaller. Some of them have depth. Some of them have no depth, but it's a mix of external and internal locus of control. I'm going to take a quick pause here and ask if, this concept is sort of clear.
We have a very interesting question that came in the middle. Atul asks, if you're doing great and tremendous at work with delivering results for your team, and someone in your team joined and is very micromanaging in nature, like on your daily tasks and stuff like that? Primarily a manager, I'm assuming. So what would you do in such a situation? Like, how would you develop a good internal locus of control is what I think is the question, but I'd like you to sort of take this up.
Right. So one of the things with these locus of control is a more of a sense factor, right? You can't imagine you go in front of somebody and be like, hey, you got internal locus of control here. You're controlling me too much. You can't do that, right? So here I would say, Atul, simply put, it has to do with skills on communication and assertive communication. That's really, it's when it comes to workplace, it comes down to that, right? Firstly, understanding individually for yourself how this is affecting you. How much of this micromanagement can you even take? Even if you're doing small tasks, I know it can get a lot when people are constantly like telling you what to do and not what to do, right? But if you are somebody who has, let's say, in this perspective as an individual, you have an internal locus of control, then you can create opportunities to present solutions to your manager. If you can do that, that is, or find a way to assertively communicate with emotion. I always preach that you have to put emotion in your sentences. So I don't feel good about this, or I feel tensed when this happens, or I feel like this is getting a little overwhelming. These are soft ways to talk to people who are in a different position as you are. And in the sense that they will get the gist just the right amount, but not so much that they're offended, right? That's the assertive communication factor. Does this make a little bit of sense, Atul? I hope so. I hope so. That's the quickest I could respond to you. I think, Harmeet, you asked why more external. I'm not too sure what you're referring to when it comes to why more external. I can see that Neha has written, here we need to think about both practically and emotionally. Okay, from image, that could just be a formatting error. But what I'm saying is that it has to be on a continuum. The idea is that you are in the middle. The cluster is in the middle. There is no more here, more there. It's supposed to be, of course, it's so tough to get a perfect balance. Nobody can, right? But we have to understand that we are supposed to be balanced in the middle, right? That's the message I'm trying to send here. Maybe it's a formatting error, Harmeet. I think it's simply a formatting error. All right. Thank you. All right. So while we're talking about these challenges and benefits and cons that we have on both sides of the continuum, right? How do we get to a balance? And like I say, always I come with a structure, right? So I want you all to practice this today after you have heard about it. One is identify, right? Think about a recent situation that you had. Think about a recent experience that you had, okay? Anything at all that probably upset you, just like how the boat came crashing into the other boat and made that individual very angry and frustrated when he came to the surface, right? So think about a work situation or a person situation that really upset you. And ask yourself one simple question: whom did you blame? Did you blame the other person? Did you blame the world around you? Or did you blame yourself for it? That is where your locus of control lies. And I want to say specifically for that moment, right? It's not permanent all the time. But the general sense of how you usually talk is talk to yourself is where you need to see. So if you're saying that in this particular situation, let's say you've come up with the answer, both, right? I think Manasvi, you said both, right? So when you say both, I want you to then reflect further and say, in the past 2 weeks or past 1 month, generally when situations have upset me, how many times have I blamed the outside world and how many times have I blamed myself? That is going to give you a sense. The higher blame for the outside, the lower blame for the inside is going to be that combination and vice versa, right? All right. Okay. Now, once we come to identifying where my locus of control leans towards, I want you also to identify that if this is a general pattern with you, every single time, is this a general pattern with you? Not just think about this particular situation or thing that upset you, but is this generally a pattern with you? Are you somebody who blames yourself more or the external situation more? Which one is it, right? There is a way you will lean. One point will be over the other. It'll be a 51 on one side, 51% on one side. There will be, you will see it, right? But the idea here is to really, really observe and really see. And even then you say that, okay, no, I am a 50-50. Then let's talk about maintaining that 50-50, right? Always savoring that 50-50. Let's identify. What do you do next? After you identify, you check. Why are you leaning towards internal, or why are you leaning towards external? Why am I blaming myself or others, right? Has there been anything in my past that made me come to this conclusion that I'm suddenly blaming the boat, which is like a wooden, object, for my anger, right? Why am I thinking that, my promotion depends on my boss's mood and not the other way around, right? Now flip it also. If you're somebody who is blaming yourself, then think, am I blaming myself too much? Am I blaming myself for something that was actually out of my control? For example, there was an earthquake that happened, and am I blaming myself for being in that situation? Because that's something that was not in your control. So check for both sides. When we come to balance, you got to check both internally and externally. The idea here is to analyze, right?
I think there's also a very thin line of difference between understanding where, people think that it is something that I can control is different, and it is something that is in my control is something very different. There's a very thin line of difference there, where, people, I think, tend to confuse, where they're not able to identify from a practical standpoint that, if it is something that they think that on a personal capacity, that, Abhishek could have identified and done this or controlled this, but what if I couldn't have, and what if it wasn't in my immediate control? I think that that thin line of difference, I think, does persist in people's head.
Well said, well said. I think that that's a very valid point. And the only way around this is to understand, is to practice on a daily basis. There is no other way around it. If this concept is new to you, internal and external locus of control, and now you know the benefits of it and how it affects you on a daily basis, it's best to go back and practice this on a daily basis, because it affects you on a daily basis.
Guys, like Shivani said, it's absolutely an amazing exercise, and you could just have it like a part of your life. It doesn't have to be like a routine task you do on a daily basis, but just being mindful about it and, sort of practicing this could make you really, really aware of your locus of control, which is actually a very nice thing. So thank you so much for this, ideas, Shivani. Thank you.
Thank you. So it was identify, check, let go. Most importantly, I think even I need to learn this personally, like I mentioned before. But see, while it's important to take control of your own life and accountability and things, but you need to be sure that, maybe you're not blaming yourself too much for things that are out of your control. And that can lead to an imbalanced internal locus of control. Most of the time, we may go back home thinking that, oh, you know what, I could have done this better, or I could have just not been in that situation. Why was I there, right? Because you have a higher internal locus of control. Like, I could have, created an opportunity here, or I could have, tried that, right? So I need you to go back and see that there are some things that you need to let go, and some little things that you need to find that are in your control. Not the whole thing. The whole world cannot be in your control. Only a certain part of it is in your control, right? Then ask yourself, why do I need to be in control of this? If you have a higher internal locus of control, this is a question that works every single time for me. And whenever somebody asks me this question, it literally puts like things in order. Says, Shivani, why do you need to be in control of this? I'm like, I don't know. Why do I need to be in control of this, right? I don't need to. I don't need to. I just think I should, right? It's a difference between the two. Then the second question is, what is the worst thing that can happen if you let go of it? If I let go of this, what's the worst thing that could happen, right? And if that thing does happen, is it really a bad thing? Like what is it, So these are the series of thought processes that actually I use in my own mind and with a lot of my clients, which is what I have presented to all of you, right? So if you do have a higher internal locus of control, then this is something that's going to flip you on the other side, hopefully, for you to kind of check and give you that shake that you need, that you don't need to be in control of these things, right? So we have identify, check, let go. Ask. Most important one, ask. You know what? A lot of people say this, but they don't do it. Here, I bring to you strengthening relationships with your coworkers, being proactive about it. Co-workers, friends, family members, right? Be open to perspective. And when I say be open to perspective, not just like, right? Not just that, really open to perspective and imbibe that perspective. Ask them questions where you feel like your pain points lie. For example, did I speak too fast in this webinar? Did I speak too slow in this webinar? Did I give too many personal examples, right? Give me feedback, right? Not me right now, but I'm just saying, overall, ask for feedback. How did I handle that conflict today? How did I do at work today, right? I'm going to take a pause here. I think you have to add something. Do you want to add something, Abhishek?
No, perfect.
Okay.
I think there's this one thing that I was trying to figure out. It's a little connected to what you were trying to explain. So since I come from a content background, we have something where we sort of mention how we write content in third person, where I'm talking about something in third person, right? And when you sort of explained how you understand or identify your internal locus of control, it does involve me putting myself in a third person's view and then thinking. Like, I can't think about myself, from I have to think from a very, how should I say? I have to think from a very, practical or a very different standpoint. I cannot be very self-absorbed. I think that's a better word. I can't be very self-absorbed while I'm trying to identify or, do this exercise of identifying my locus of control, because I feel that there's going to be a lot of bias there, because as you said, like, there's going to be a lot of confusion in my head. I won't be able to say whether I need this or not, whether I need to be in control or not, right? So what do you call this exercise when you're trying to put yourself a little away from who you really are and then trying to identify your locus of control? Like, I do not want to be in a spot where I'm trying to say that I'm not sure whether I should or whether I shouldn't. I want to be assertive, like you said, right? So in order to be assertive about identifying the locus of control, what should be one's approach, or how should I go about doing that?
Right. So there are two approaches. Very good question. There are two approaches to this. One is the individual approach, like you said. You ask yourself that, and you're not able to be objective now. Like you said, that's the main challenge, right? I usually call this exercise as zoom out of your soul. That's what I call it, right? Literally, I'm imagining like there's a Shivani and there is another Shivani, and they both have different perspectives. And then there's a third Shivani that's zoomed out and is watching this conversation happen. That's how mostly I have practiced it. It's a very good visualization technique to also take home with all of you, right? Abhishek has got this out of me. Right? So you watch this kind of zoom out and you have this perspective that these two people are having a conversation. Sometimes this happens very automatically in your mind as well, this entire process. It's a very fast, quick one, okay? But visualizing this gives you that idea that, okay, this person is saying this, but you don't need to be in control of this, right? That gives you a third person perspective, even though you are not actually a third person. You are yourself, right? It's a very in-depth sort of approach to this. The second one is simply look at the mirror in the mornings or whenever you feel like you're in struggle. This is one of the easiest ones, and ask yourself right in front of your face. Most of the time, what happens is when we ask our friends or our colleagues or family members to do this with us, we will not be honest with them, because we want to also have a face put out. कि नहीं नहीं मैं तो ऐसे सोचता हूँ, मेरा तो balance है, right? We want to put that out there, but that means that you're not being true to yourself. So you have to be true to yourself, and the only time you can do that is when you're really alone, when you're honest with yourself, or when you're speaking to somebody who is a complete stranger or confidentially, and they're sharing something and you're sharing something. I hope that answers your questions. You've got 3 techniques.
Absolutely, it does. I think it's a very experiential way of identifying locus of control, which makes me want to say that all of us here in this webinar today, please do so. If you go back, reflect on yourselves, find some time to do this, because it's not just a hobby, but it's a brilliant way of identifying yourself better and knowing yourself better, and it's something you'll fall in love with eventually, right? Life must not always have to be some sort of an adventure or an activity that is dependent on something else, right? You can be self indulged and do something like this, right? It's a brilliant way of, I think, maintaining your well-being and thinking of something which is going to develop you as a better person, right? So fantastic. I think this essence wouldn't have come in the initial beginning of the presentation until we reached here. And this is why it was structured. And I'm glad, like you mentioned, you always come with a structure. And this is the crux of it. I feel this is what we boil everything down to. So amazing, amazing. I think this is my biggest takeaway today. I'm gonna, zoom out and think about myself today.
Yeah.
And this is absolutely great. Yes.
Thank you. Right. What's the other one? So there's a structure, like I said. So we had identify, check. 1 second. I think I got stuck, or did you get stuck? I think you got stuck. No, there was a light.
No. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Identify, check, let go, ask, right? And we finally also have ideate, right? Ideate is what? Taking ownership, right? I think it's more, it's very highly preached as well, but I'm going to just give you guys a little bit of a technique and a strategy of how to do this, right? What's a bad goal? A bad goal is when you tell me that tomorrow I want to be an influencer and have 10,000 followers on LinkedIn, right? It's a bad goal. What's a better goal is if you say that, you know what, I'm going to reach out to a few people, network with a few people on a regular basis to get to that stage. Or I'm going to put, let's say, 10 posts in a month to crack that sort of algorithm to get a higher reach, right? That's a better goal. But what's a good goal is if you say to yourself, I'm going to be posting 5 things about locus of control on a daily basis or a weekly basis in order for it to be meaningful to people, as well as I'm going to learn how to make content better, right? That's a good goal. So most of the times where we get stuck is at the bad goal or even a better goal, but we don't come up with a good goal. So start ideating today on your goal. Why? Because when you make these goals more intricate and detail oriented, the more likely you are to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to do, and the higher accountability that there is, right? Coming to the factor that and this is regardless if you have an internal locus of control or external locus of control, you can still come up with 10 steps to reach a goal for yourself, which is what we need to start doing, which is what most of us lack in doing, right? So ideate, then make a change. This is very important. This is something people don't usually talk about, but very important. One of the things that I will personally share with you that I have been trying in the past 2 months is controlling my impulses in day-to-day life. And it has made an immense change in the way I perceive things, the way I see control, right? I've had to say yes to some things and I've had to say no to some things, right? To give you a personal example, recently I gave up, non-veg for the past, it's been 8 days and I'm counting, right? So it's been quite some time since I've been starting this challenge. So I'm asking you all to make a small change in your lifestyle and do something that's just 10 to 20% out of your comfort zone. Don't go beyond and above and beyond to reach that kind of resilience level that will probably never get there in that time you have expected. Right? So don't live your resilience in a fancy land is what fantasy world is what I say to people. And make a small change and try and stick to just one goal a month or one goal in 2 months, right? Don't club goals. And how you make these changes in your lifestyle is identify an algorithm, like a sort of formula for yourself. Hey, this is 10% outside my comfort zone. Looks like I can do about 10 days of this, right? And looks like I have 2 people at least who will keep me in line to keep going. Okay. If you have nobody to keep you in line, you're saying I'm going to do this for the next 6 months, just stop. It's not going to work. That kind of lifestyle is not going to be a very fast change for you, right? So make small changes in your lifestyle. Things that are distracting you, things that are taking away your impulses, things that are, really making you feel addicted to something, or you want to constantly grab onto it, do it, scrolling on the phone, watching a lot of reels, detoxing from social media. Do small changes in life. It'll really give you a sense of control. It'll make you think that, all right, I'll come to Harneet in a bit. It'll really make you feel like you have this kind of this is one part of your life that you have in control because you've made that change, right? That's the sense we're trying to see over here. Finally, I've quickly showed you guys that, but I want you all to notice something while I was telling you guys about the different ways of implementing a balance in your locus of control. Did you notice what the structure was? So let me go through it again, because I feel like if you were paying attention, you'd be able to make up this word in a minute. Identify, check, let go, ask, ideate, make a change.
I claim.
Oh man, why would you give it away? Onsurity. Harmeet, I think Harmeet's responses are the best. All right. It stands for I claim.
Sorry, I'm really excited. I had to say it. I'm so sorry.
I have claimed my superpower today, and I hope you guys also claim your superpower today. So identify, check, let go, ask, ideate, make a change. Right? That's how you're going to figure out your locus of control. Thank you so much for having me. I think there are a few questions which I should get to.
Absolutely. We quickly jump to the Q&A. Guys, please, we're going to have a quick 5 to 6 minute Q&A, not long, since we are running out of time. Please quickly put your question on the chat box. Meanwhile, I'm going to read some for you, Shivani. We have someone asking about, when you were explaining about, romantic relationships. We had a question from someone asking how to handle a situation when your partner has a external locus of control and is always in a defensive mode.
How do you handle a situation? That's a tough one. First of all, I hope you're okay. So what happens is I want you to, most of the time, because we've heard the concept now, and we're probably going to go back and use it and use these terms. I want to say that please use these terms very wisely with people around you, first of all. Second of all is somebody who's constantly going in defense mode. If you're already aware that your partner has an external locus of control, and you're also aware that they constantly go through defense modes, right? Is the goal for you to try to change that into internal locus of control? Is that what you want in your partner, or is it more about coming to a balance? The ideal is coming to a balance, right? The balance comes in when you understand why your partner is going in constant defense mode. What is the situation that constantly makes them go into defense mode? Is it every single situation, or is it some of them? And what factors in their past life experiences has sort of made them come to this conclusion, and how has your reaction been? So there are different approaches to this, but the first thing that you need to do is, I think you've identified it, but you have not checked, right? You've identified that my partner has an external locus of control, but I need you to check, analyze why, what in the recent past has happened that this is what the conclusion is now, right? Then try to understand how your partner can let go of certain things or be in control of little things, at least. When you have an external locus of control, you are somebody who will think that nothing is in your control. It's all left to you or to fate or destiny, right? So you show them, hey, you know what? This is what's in your control. This is something we can do. This is something we can do together. Why don't we try it, right? You go to those steps instead of outright saying that, hey, you know what, you always go into defensive mode and I can't handle it. Instead of doing that, we have to be able to gradually bring them into the zone. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Ricky, change the partner, trust me, you will be happy. I think that's not a healthy advice. Let's not.
So we had Harmeet, I think he came with question while you were explaining the last part of the presentation. It can only work if you fear someone or pay for something for change. I think this was when you were explaining the change part.
Make a change. It can only work if you fear someone or pay for something for change. Pay for something for change, I didn't quite understand what you meant by that, but I think it means that, but it doesn't really mean to fear someone.
He says weight loss. Example, say weight loss.
Okay. Example, weight loss. Right. Okay. Yes. You will have to, I wouldn't call it, See, again, here's how we think about it, right? We have to think about it in a healthy perspective. Fear someone or pay something. You're saying like give up something for a change, for example, right? So when it comes to weight loss, let's say you're giving up some kind of diet that you currently have, probably. So it can only work if you are giving up something that you at most think that you crave, or you feel like you can't live without, or it's a challenge that you can take up to say like, this is what I'm going to live with now, right? So I see where you're coming from. Either it is slightly bit of the formula here is 10% of fear of what you're going to change, right? And secondly, it has to be realistic. Harmeet, the main idea is it has to be realistic. So today, again, remember, go back to the goal, ideate about your goal. If your goal is, I want to lose weight, that's a bad goal. If you say that a better goal is something where you say that, you're going to lose your weight in this much time, or you're going to maybe get a trainer to do it. But a very, very good goal is saying that I can start today for 10 minutes of jumping and do 20 minutes of jumping tomorrow and 30 minutes of jumping day after. That's a goal, right? Most of the times what I say to people is when it comes to these, impulse control and resilience factor, please try and stick to something that is very small, but it bothers you a lot. Okay. Weight loss, earning a lot of money, it's a lot of change that you're going to expect, and it's interdependent on a lot of things as well. Right. Okay. That answers your question.
With that, we sort of come to the end of Q&A.
Okay. Right.
Thank you so much, Harmeet, and the others who asked great questions during the session, and it's been an absolute honor having you, Shivani. I think we kind of stretched the time, but it was amazing, and there's a lot that we've taken back from today's session, a lot we're going to learn, and a lot of activities that you've left for us that we can actually work on, not just today or tomorrow, for the rest of our lives. So thank you so much for making such a beautiful deck, great presentation. And I think I am firstly very sorry for calling out the last answer and sort of ruining your entire fun of the presentation, but I was actually very excited. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. There's so much that we've learned, a lot of new concepts, internal locus of control, external locus of control, learning about the plasticity of mind, and so many other things, right? So it's been great having you, and we look forward to having you again and having some sort of similar webinar on these lines for our attendees. And once again, thanking you and Mana Wellness for sort of creating such great presentations and talks for us. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Yes. Remember, I claim my superpower today. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.